Amazing twist, a black girl's simple act saved a billionaire, revealing life-changing secrets. Maya Johnson trudged down the cracked sidewalk, her worn sneakers echoing her exhaustion. After hours of stacking shelves at the local grocery store, she clutched the meager paycheck in her pocket like it was a winning lottery ticket. Every dollar counted. Just as she rounded the corner of Elm Street, an odd sight snagged her attention. An elderly man in a crisp navy suit stood beside a shiny black luxury car, a defeated look etched into his weathered face. His rear tire was flat. Curiosity piqued, Maya's mind raced with thoughts of her mother, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Father's words echoed in her head: hard work and perseverance. She hesitated for a heartbeat. Surely, he didn't need help, he could call someone. But then she saw the fear in his eyes. "Can I help you?" she ventured, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. The man turned, surprise lighting up his face. "That would be most kind, young lady," he said, gratitude spilling from his tone. As they worked together, he shared snippets of his life, a billionaire with legacies worth fortunes, yet lonely. An entire world hidden behind a veneer of wealth. Maya felt a flutter of connection. This man had traveled a road far different than hers, yet their struggles intertwined. With each word, her unease morphed into understanding. She confessed her insecurities, dreams of becoming a scientist, how every late-night study session felt like a duel against gravity itself. Samuel Grant, the elderly billionaire, leaned in, intrigued. "Maya, the spark in you makes me believe in the future we can build," he said, eyes twinkling with a kind of warmth she had nearly forgotten existed. They shook hands, a pact forged between ambition and hope. But as gratitude settled in, a chill coursed through her. His company was under threat from a rival, someone eager to strip away his empire. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The moment hung like an unresolved chord. Maya's mind whirled. She envisioned the promise of mentorship, connection to a world she had only glimpsed through books. But how could she engage in his business when echoes of injustice resonated around her? What about his rival's cruel tactics? An impulse to choose morality screamed inside her. Stay loyal to the man who believed in her, or confront the wrongs unfolding around them. The pressure felt colossal, her bones heavy with indecision. The world outside pulsed around her with indifference, while her heart raced, emotion uncoiling into an aching void. Samuel's kindness clashed with the darkness she witnessed. And then it struck her there was a secret buried in Samuel's past that could turn the tide. But in revealing that truth, what would she sacrifice? Her gain meant potential ruin for someone she had just met. As the weight of the decision settled on her, Maya stood frozen, staring into the dizzying unknown. The dream of her future loomed on one side, while the reality of the betrayal lay stark across her mind. She was at a crossroads. A decision awaited that would affect not only her life but also the life of the man whose path she had unwittingly crossed. The air crackled with tension, leaving her breathless, and the question lingered painfully: which path would she choose? Maya's pulse quickened, each thud echoing the conflict raging inside her. The promise of a future dancing with the richness of opportunity tugged at her heart, yet the looming shadow of deceit loomed large. She could feel Samuel's eyes studying her. The trust in them was palpable, but so was the knowledge that revealing his secrets meant stepping into a moral abyss. What would it mean to betray someone who saw her potential? Could she unlock paths filled with unimagined knowledge and connections, only to step on someone else's back? She recalled nights spent hunched over textbooks, familiar with dreams but constricted by reality. Could she still be true to herself if she played the game of deceit that the corporate world thrived on? Outwardly calm, Maya inhaled deeply, forcing herself to step away from the vortex of emotion swirling within. She recalled the snippets of her father's stories, the virtues of transparency and integrity, the weight of choices that determined one's character. Yet this was different, this wasn't her everyday struggle. This was a Titan's empire facing an existential threat. She could be the answer or the reason for Samuel's demise. Samuel, she finally spoke, her heart racing as she added, I want to help you, but I need to understand the risks involved. He nodded, a hint of respect in his gaze. You're perceptive, Maya. The rival company is ruthless, they don't play by the same rules. Their tactics involve manipulation and coercion. Samuel exhaled sharply, age creeping into his voice. But sometimes the hardest battles for integrity are fought with unconventional strategies. Maya felt the electric potential of those words strike a chord within her. What did that mean? How could she utilize her knowledge, her intuition, to protect what was right? She looked at Samuel, sensing a vitality in the depths of his experience that she longed to absorb. This wasn't just about him or his empire, it was about a shared journey toward justice. That in a sudden surge of determination, she decided right then, she couldn't stand aside. What if we turned the tables? She proposed, her voice crisp with possibility. If your rival plays dirty, we can strategize how we might use their tactics against them without crossing ethical lines. I might not know everything, but I can research, gather information, and we can create a narrative that reveals their practices. People respond to truth. Samuel's eyes widened, and for a moment, she thought he might dismiss her. Instead, a slow grin cracked his serious demeanor. You have fire, girl. That ambition will take you places. They began plotting, sketching out angles of media strategy, potential allies in the information war, and ways to rebuild his public image. Each idea Maya conjured added a layer of fuel to her excitement, she felt her mind igniting with possibilities. Yet, in the depths of her mind lurked worries about Samuel's past, the danger that lurked around his rival, and the risk of getting entangled deeper than she intended. As they continued discussing tactics, Maya made notes, her hand racing across the page, every potential contact feeling like a stepping stone toward her aspirations. The rhythm thrummed around her, a potent mixture of dread and anticipation. She was finally engaging with real-world challenges. But in the back of her thoughts, the question lingered, unanswered, what darkness could emerge if the truth about Samuel's past came to light? Beneath the exhilaration was an undeniable fear, and like a storm brewing on the horizon, it hinted at chaos. Maya pushed her worries aside, she had chosen the path of action. Now she needed to prepare for the impending confrontation that simmered just beneath the surface. Decisions loomed like ghosts in her mind, threatening to unravel the tapestry of newfound hope. As her phone buzzed, pulling her from contemplation, she glanced down to see a message from an unknown number. With a frown, she opened it. The words made her heart pound. I know what you're getting involved in, Maya. If you pursue this path, it won't just be Samuel's empire at stake. The screen glowed ominously in her hands as the weight of new revelations unfurled before her, and with it, the suffocating tension of an uncertain future. Maya's mind raced, her thoughts a torrent of uncertainty and fear. The message felt like an icy hand gripping her spine, freezing her resolve, and sparking questions she didn't have the answers to. Who sent this? What did they know? She was thrust into a world she was only beginning to understand, and the stakes were rising dangerously with every breath she took. The room felt smaller now, the air thick with possibilities and threats. Samuel continued explaining tactics on their strategy, but her thoughts were ensnared by the unknown. As he outlined their next moves, she couldn't help but mentally pivot between fear and determination. Deep down, she realized this was bigger than her. It was about standing firm against all odds. But what if those odds were now stacked against her as well? Were you able to contact that journalist from the industry magazine? Samuel asked, pulling her back to the moment. Not yet, but I'm working on it, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Samuel leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression washing over his face. We need someone credible on our side. If the public can grasp the truth, it will tilt the balance in our favor. The tension in her shoulders eased as she focused on the task at hand. It was empowering to know that every piece of information, every connection, could help tilt the odds back in their favor. But amidst her growing clarity, the foreboding message persisted in the back of her mind like an unwelcome shadow. She had to confront it. "Samuel," she said, choosing her words carefully, "what if we dig into your past? I mean, if we're going to expose the rival's underhanded tactics, maybe it's best we don't have any skeletons lurking in the closet." His brow furrowed, and for a moment, she saw vulnerability flicker across his face. "I can't control what they dig up," he said slowly, "but you're right. We need to preempt any vulnerabilities." The realization struck Maya this was a test of both their characters. If they turned the tables, they would need to be prepared to navigate the complexity of truth and deception. Every choice they made would echo beyond the fallout of this moment, shaping their paths forward. As her mind grappled with strategies, another thought took root: could the revelations about Samuel's past serve her in some way? Would understanding his journey not only bolster their cause but also illuminate the depths of her own capabilities? Perhaps if she had a deeper comprehension of him, she could strategize even more effectively, yet doubt gnawed at her. Would this alliance lead to her ultimate growth or her doom? She felt as if she stood on an emotional tightrope, every step forward tethered to a deeper need for truth. With every idea shared between them, she felt both exhilarated and terrified. Just then, her phone vibrated again, pulling her from the internal storm. The same unknown number had sent another message, and her heart raced. She opened it, dread creeping into her chest. "It's not just utilitarian moves, Maya. This game can shatter lives. Consider carefully." With resolve burning like an ember within, Maya stared ahead, her determinations crystallizing. The risks were undeniable, but so was her opportunity for growth. She could choose the easy route, but more importantly, she could face the challenge, guided by the principles her father had instilled in her. "Let us meet our potential allies," she urged, locking her gaze with Samuel's. "The truth can be our armor." As they prepared to forge an alliance, she felt growth coursing through her veins. Each decision was leading her away from a life of passive observation to one of active engagement. What lay ahead felt ominous yet promising. The tension was palpable as she braced herself for the inevitable confrontation with the rival company, and still, a darker foreboding weighed on her mind. Who was watching them, and what more did they know? And as she stood on the precipice of this transformative journey, another message arrived, snapping her focus. "The truth won't shield you from the coming storm, Maya. Are you prepared for the unveiling?" Maya's heart sank. This fight had only just begun, and she was racing against an unseen foe. Maya's heart thudded in her chest as she wrestled with the weight of the unknown. With each breath, she felt the pulse of urgency guiding her decisions. Swallowing her fear, she turned to Samuel, determination flooding her veins. "We'll prepare ourselves. Let us map out who we need to contact, and develop a narrative that portrays our story authentically." Samuel nodded, but there was a lingering tension in the air, a weight of unspoken fears. Maya knew they were both grappling with uncertainty about the future, but she sensed that ownership over their narrative was within reach. This realization sparked a flicker of confidence. They spent the next few hours drafting a potential outline for their article, laying down fact sheets and highlighting key points that countered the rival company's smear campaign. As they meticulously pieced together their tactics, Maya allowed herself a moment to reflect on the significance of what they were doing. This alliance, while fraught with risk, was her first real step away from the sidelines, yet, the message still haunted her thoughts. What did the sender mean about shattering lives? It gnawed at her insides, the sinister implication that, beyond business, personal stakes were woven into the fabric of their conflict. To understand this, she needed to delve deeper into Samuel's past and confront her own fears. "Why not go over your story right now? It'll help us frame our narrative," Maya suggested, her voice more assertive than she felt. Samuel hesitated, the shadow of vulnerability crossing his face again. "Are you sure you want to know?" "I need to know," she stated firmly. The truth, however painful, will guide our actions. It's the only way we can forge a strong front. With an exhale, Samuel began to reveal fragments of his past, failures, regrets, and moments of triumph against all odds. Maya listened intently, each word he shared making her see him through a different lens. As he spoke of the losses he faced, Maya realized a deeper truth in understanding the past. They both found a sense of purpose moving forward. The conversation shifted, and it became a mutual exchange of histories. She revealed her own struggles, the hours spent pushed to extremes to prove herself in a male-dominated field, and her journey to carve her own path without losing her identity. This intimate exchange connected them in a way that seemed to dissolve the chaos of the world beyond their bubble. Just then, her phone vibrated again, a stark reminder of the outside reality. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she read the new message. "You think you're equipped to handle the truth, but lies can be elegant, Maya. What will you do when it unravels?" Samuel's gaze sharpened as he caught sight of her expression. "What is it?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. "It's another message," she replied, keeping her tone steady, though inside, anxiety surged. "They're warning me us. They're not just after our reputation, this feels personal." In that moment, she realized their growing alliance now had far deeper implications than she had initially imagined. This was no longer just a fight against a rival company. It had morphed into something that threatened not just their careers, but their very identities. Maya felt her resolve harden into something nearly palpable. "We need to change our approach. It's time we go on the offensive, but we need to be smart about it. Who else can we trust?" The internal tension ratcheted higher, and as Samuel weighed their options, Maya became acutely aware of the urgency in their situation. If they were to confront the storm ahead, they needed allies who understood loyalty and the weight of truth. Standing at the edge of this tempestuous new reality, she sensed that the path toward defining their futures had become a treacherous gamble. But with Samuel and their unyielding commitment to truth at her side, Maya felt the embers of determination ignite once more. As they began strategizing their next steps, each decision shaping their collective narrative, Maya's mind danced between the unfolding plans and the cryptic messages. They were playing a game larger than either of them could have anticipated. And just as she began plotting their outreach, another notification lit up her screen, sending chills down her spine. "I know your next move, Maya. You've only begun to scratch the surface. Be careful what you wish for." With a collective breath, Maya and Samuel locked eyes, a silent agreement flowing between them. They were no longer mere players in this game now, they were determined to rewrite the rules entirely. Maya's thoughts raced like a torrent, the cryptic message swirling in her mind. Samuel had noticed her momentary lapse, and she felt the heaviness of unaddressed questions weighing down her resolve. "We need to figure out who's behind this," she said, straightening her back as if to embody the steely determination she wished to project. Samuel nodded slowly, the tension in his expression mirroring her own. "But how? We're already in a precarious position. Every move we make could be monitored. What if they know we're onto them?" That was exactly what gnawed at her. The situation felt like a high-stakes game of chess where every piece was at risk. Yet, she reminded herself of their alliance. It offered strength, a diversion from the isolation of dealing with these challenges alone. "Let's brainstorm a list of allies. People who might have insights or even motives to help us." As they compiled a list of contacts, Maya felt a flicker of hope. It was easy to feel paralyzed by fear, but taking action, even small steps, brought clarity. Samuel suggested reaching out to their old college professor, Dr. Allen, who had an extensive network and a reputation for integrity. He knew how to navigate the murky waters of corporate politics. "I always admired his ethical stance," Maya commented, recalling the professor's fervent discussions about integrity in business. "We could use his insight to guide us." The decision felt empowering, but with each tick of the clock, the thrill of proactive momentum was accompanied by the chill of anxiety. What if they were simply drawing attention to themselves? "Let's meet him in person. Discuss the situation under the pretense of seeking advice on our careers," Samuel suggested. The suggestion eased the tightness in her chest, but her mind raced ahead, contemplating the possible repercussions. Once they reached their old university campus, nostalgia washed over Maya despite the urgency at hand. The familiar brick paths and towering trees stripped away her defenses momentarily, allowing her a breath of solace. But as they entered the professor's office, the seriousness of the situation lurked beneath the surface. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Allen greeted, his warm voice engulfing the room. Maya felt a twinge of comfort. He had always been the trustworthy authority figure in an otherwise tumultuous academic environment. As they broached the subject, detailing the smear campaign and their fears, the professor listened intently. "What you're experiencing is more common than you think," he replied, his brow furrowing. "Corporate sabotage can often target individuals rather than companies. The stakes become personal." The weight of those words settled around them, sparking a new layer of resolve in Maya. Their fight extended beyond professional survival, it became a battle for their identities too. Scrambling to gather her thoughts, she posed a question she had been wrestling with. How do we confront something so insidious when it could destroy us? It feels daunting. Dr. Allen leaned back, considering her. Power often lies in knowledge and strategy. Finding the root of this attack is crucial. You must uncover the motives. Who stands to gain? His response ignited a fire within her. Clearly, their opponents had an agenda, and discovering it was vital. But even more than that, the thought of facing this challenge head-on filled her with a newfound determination. Each word he spoke empowered her, nudging her closer to the woman she was meant to become: unyielding, assertive, proactive. After their meeting, they walked back to the car in contemplative silence, the discussion buzzing in her mind like a live wire. Something had shifted within her. She felt the mantle of responsibility resting solidly on her shoulders. "Do you think we can actually unravel this?" Samuel asked, his voice tinged with both caution and curiosity. "We have to. We've already made the first move. It's time to sharpen our strategy further," Maya asserted, feeling the drive to act pulsating through her. With each passing moment, the boundaries of her identity blurred. The fear was still present, but so was something transformative: confidence, blending with every decision made. The urgency in her gut signaled they were nearing something significant. They needed to be prepared, to anticipate the unexpected, and maybe even confront the source that threatened them both. Just as they were about to turn down a side street, Maya's phone vibrated again. Hesitant to look but unable to resist, she glanced at the screen. The word sent a fear-inducing chill down her spine. "You've stirred the pot, Maya. Are you ready for the consequences? Your strength may be your downfall." With a racing heart, she turned to Samuel, and their eyes met with an electric understanding. The test was on. The stakes were higher than they'd ever imagined. They were now locked in a battle where the next moves could define everything. Fate had challenged them both, and as they stepped deeper into the labyrinth of corporate warfare, Maya felt the heat of impending confrontation looming ever nearer. What awaited them in the next round of this dangerous game? The intensity of the text message lingered in Maya's mind, a jolt that gripped her heart. Your strength may be your downfall. What a terrifying thought. She couldn't afford to let fear dictate her actions. Finding a way to turn that strength into an asset became her singular focus. With renewed resolve, she knew they needed to stay ahead of whatever game was being played against them. As they drove away from the campus, Maya's mind was racing with strategies and connections they could leverage. The stakes were high, and any misstep could lead to further complications. Her initial instinct had been to hide, to retreat into the confines of safety, but Dr. Allen's words echoed in her head: knowledge and strategy would be their greatest allies. "We need to be proactive," she said, turning to Samuel. "We'll start by cataloging everything we know about possible threats. If we can understand their motives, perhaps we can anticipate their next move." Samuel looked hesitant but nodded in agreement. "And what if they target our allies instead? The best defense is a sound offense. Each connection we reinforce becomes a buffer against potential attacks." We'll share information strategically, ensuring that our allies are informed without revealing our full hand. His brow furrowed as he processed her words. It's risky. Maya smiled wryly, feeling something shift within her. Every step we take from here on out will be risky. It's a game of chess, Samuel. And I refuse to be a pawn. Back in her apartment, Maya started organizing their findings from the meeting with Dr. Allen. She opened a new document, the cursor blinking impatiently. She began typing swiftly, detailing everything they had experienced, each peculiar event that led to their current predicament. The intimidation tactics, the misinformation each played a role in conjuring a larger picture. As she filled the digital page with bullet points, names, dates, inconsistencies, she felt an overwhelming sense of clarity emerging. It was as if the chaos around her was finally being transformed into a manageable puzzle. Each piece represented a potential ally, a point of contact that could either aid or undermine their efforts. Hours passed, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across her living room. Periodically, she would glance at her phone, waiting. That sense of anticipation pulsed through her veins, electrifying her every thought. Her heart dropped at the mention of her competitors. Familiar names appeared, companies she once regarded as benign. A sudden knock at the door jolted her back to reality. Startled, she opened it cautiously, peering out. Samuel stood there, a mixture of uncertainty and curiosity reflected in his eyes. "I thought you might want to discuss what we found," he said, holding a folder tight against his chest. "Did you talk to anyone?" she asked, immediately recognizing the worry that had begun to settle in her gut. "I reached out to Holly from HR. She mentioned something about a few irregularities in the reporting structures. It seems they're manipulating a lot more than we thought." Maya's heart raced as she processed this information. This was significant. If they're scrambling their reports, it could be a form of financial sabotage. We have to dig deeper. We might even be able to expose the links to our competitors. Are we prepared for backlash? Fear laced his question, but behind it lay an unspoken trust. Maya paused, assessing the path ahead. Fear can be paralyzing, but we can't afford to let it control us. We put them on notice, now we have to keep going. As they began to strategize their next steps, keeping their conversations low and urgent, a new drive surged within Maya. This confrontation would require more than intellect, it would demand courage. Each decision from this point could lead to unraveling the complex web of betrayal they were caught in. Yet, amid her thoughts, she couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. The next step felt heavy with consequence, not just for her and Samuel but for everyone they reached out to. Suddenly, her phone buzzed yet again. Another message. She couldn't help but feel her heart race as she opened it. The chilling words simply read, "We're watching you closely, Maya. Each move counts. Don't underestimate the danger." This game was becoming deadly serious. With their next move looming, Maya learned that her growing determination would be tested like never before. The implied threat stung, powerfully reminding her of the stakes involved. Would she stand firm, confronting the rising tide of danger head-on, or would the pressure force her into submission? The resolve coursed through her, but uncertainty lingered with every heartbeat. One thing was clear, the time had come to face more than just the corporate players. In the shadows waited figures who were willing to play for keeps. The stakes were escalating, and it was now or never. As they readied to engage again, Maya felt the rush of possibility mixed with fear. Would they finally uncover the true puppet masters behind their turmoil? Maya sat at her cluttered desk, the glow of her laptop casting strange shadows across the walls. An unsettling mix of exhilaration and apprehension coursed through her. The threat looming over her had transformed into a clarion call. She could no longer stand on the sidelines. Each keystroke felt like a countdown, pushing her closer to a point of no return. As she scheduled calls with key allies, thoughts of the impending danger weighed heavily on her mind. She pondered Samuel's words about potential backlash and the implications of their pursuit. What were they truly up against? Truth be told, she had no certainty other than the test of her own resolve. One aspect gnawed at her more than any external threat, her commitment to herself. Had she always been strong enough to play this high-stakes game? She had buried that doubt for years, working hard to build a career defined by integrity and excellence. Now, she needed to draw on every ounce of it to navigate the murky waters ahead. "Let us start with Holly's information," she said, turning to Samuel, who had settled on her couch, poring over the folder he had brought. Building a case around the reporting discrepancies could open doors to the real problem. Samuel rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "That could make waves. Are you prepared for the scrutiny it might bring?" "Scrutiny? Let them scrutinize. If we're going to expose this financial sabotage, we must do it now before they can cover tracks or retaliate. But we'll need a strategy, something solid. What about conducting an anonymous survey among our colleagues? If others suspect something, they may be willing to speak up," he suggested, looking at her with cautious optimism. "Good idea. We can frame it as a routine check-in. No one needs to know our real motive." A flicker of excitement ignited within her, igniting a fire she had almost forgotten existed. In that moment, Maya knew she was no longer just a participant in this chaotic game. She was going to be a master player. Transitioning their tactics into actionable steps didn't take long. They crafted questions that would elicit genuine responses while camouflaging their intentions. As Maya pressed send, something within her shifted, a blend of trepidation and empowerment. Yet, a persistent nagging remained. What if their efforts backfired? What if they revealed things she wasn't ready to face? The stakes felt raw, personal. It wasn't purely about corporate deception anymore, it was about standing firm in her identity and her ability to shape the world around her. Over the following days, they gathered testimonials and small but significant pieces of evidence. With each new finding, Maya felt an undeniable sensation of transformation. Clarity began to emerge, not just about the threats they faced, but about her own capabilities. She was learning to confront her fears and harness her own strengths in new ways. "I think we have enough for a report," she announced one evening, the adrenaline surging through her veins like wildfire. In that moment, Samuel's hesitant expression morphed into admiration. "Are you ready for what comes next?" he asked, his voice a mixture of encouragement and caution. "More than ever," she replied, feeling a sense of purpose fuel her resolve. The true fight had begun, and she was no longer standing at the edge of the fray, she was diving in. But as she finalized their findings, a notification lit up her screen. A familiar, ominous message, though this time it bore a new angle. "Your allies will pay if you persist, Maya. Is it worth their safety?" Shock washed over her, a swift blade of fear that threatened to cut her resolve. Below her growing anger, however, an icy clarity emerged. This was bigger than just her and Samuel, larger than any personal ambition she had forged. Now, the question was not just about strategy, it was one of moral reckoning. Was she willing to risk the safety of those she cared about, or could she find a path that protected everyone involved? The revelations were mounting, and the time for action was on the horizon. As Maya prepared to confront the shadows lurking behind the curtain, she realized the most critical challenge awaited, understanding the balance between her power and the lives entwined with her choices. With everything at stake, Maya steeled herself. The battles ahead were not just about survival, they were also about protection and integrity. Focused and resolute, she prepared to initiate a confrontation that would redefine her path, yet, in the struggle for control, even a slight misstep could cost her dearly. As she geared up for the next phase, she wondered, would she be able to navigate the labyrinth of deceit while keeping her allies safe? Each moment hung heavy with consequence, and a sense of urgency pulsed in tandem with her determination. The clock was ticking, and every decision would lead either to salvation or disaster. The crossroads approached, and Maya felt the heat of consequence closing in. What would be her next move? Maya felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her as she stared at the screen. The words of the anonymous warning seared into her mind. Risking the safety of her allies felt like standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to plunge into the unknown. But there was exhilaration in that danger, propelling her deeper into her purpose. Her thoughts raced. Every step could be a potential misstep. Was she still that ambitious young professional who fled from conflict? The mistake she had made in the past echoed in her mind, a time when she hesitated to challenge office dynamics, opting instead for compliance. Back then, she had convinced herself it was the safe route. But she had learned since then, it was the misalignment between her values and actions that had held her back. "I need to talk to Holly," she said finally, her conviction swelling. "If I can get her on board, we can leverage her perspective to bring more credibility to our findings." Samuel gave her a nod, though his concern remained palpable. "What if this backfires? You know she's close with the higher-ups." For a brief moment, doubt reared its head again. Would Holly even be willing to listen? The stakes were escalating, and each fiber of her being knew that this next conversation could alter the trajectory of everything they had painstakingly built. But fear was no longer a controlling force, it had transformed into a catalyst for action. Maya spent the following day preparing, organizing her notes, and rehearsing the discussion in her mind. Clarity had become a weapon, and she was armed with facts, testimonials, and a commitment to uphold integrity. But as she paced her apartment, a familiar tightness in her chest reminded her of that previous reluctance. Would this be a moment to embrace her courage, or would she fall back into the shadows of hesitation? Arriving at the cafe to meet Holly, Maya's heart raced. The warm aroma of coffee and baked goods enveloped her, masking her anxiety for a moment. She spotted Holly at a small table, the sunlight casting a halo around her. Maya's mind buzzed with the enormity of what was at stake. "Maya. It's good to see you." Holly's bright smile felt like a burst of reassurance, yet Maya couldn't shake the weight of the truth she was about to lay bare. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, gathering her courage as she slid into the seat opposite Holly. "I have something important to discuss, something I think might concern you." "Sure, what's on your mind?" Holly leaned in, her curiosity piqued. Maya swallowed hard, the moment finally upon her. "It's about the reporting discrepancies and financial practices. I believe they're not just mistakes. Something deeper is happening, and I think we need to take action." Holly's expression shifted, her smile faltering. I don't know what you mean. The company has always been transparent with us." "Have they? The data suggests otherwise. I can show you everything." Maya's voice trembled with a newfound strength, each word punctuated with purpose. "But we need to tread carefully. If we don't expose this, we risk everything, not just our careers, but the integrity of our work." Holly's silence felt suffocating, the tension palpable as she considered the enormity of the revelation. Doubt flickered in her eyes, but Maya pushed onward, determined to bridge the gap of trust. "If I'm wrong, you can dismiss this. But if I'm right, we need to act before it's too late. If it means risking our positions to protect the truth, then I'm doing it." A long silence ensued, and Maya could feel the clock ticking again, the same urgency that had cast her into the game. It echoed a sense of inevitability between them, the pressure building to a breaking point. "I'll help you," Holly finally declared, her voice steady. "But we must plan meticulously. If we're going to do this, we must ensure it's unassailable." They drained their coffee cups, the mood shifting from uncertainty to a collaborative fire igniting between them. As they strategized, Maya began to see a clearer path. Her doubts morphed into a strategic mindset. This was not just about her anymore, it was a mission to protect their shared vision of integrity. But just as they began plotting the next steps, Maya's phone buzzed, another chilling notification stealing her focus. "Your safety is at stake, Maya. Disrupting the establishment comes with consequences you may not be prepared for." The pulse of excitement that had coursed through her veins now coiled into trepidation. Maya's mind raced as possibilities coursed through her. What would this mean for her and Holly? Would they be stepping into a war they were not prepared to fight? The stakes were now not just her own but entangled with Holly's safety as well. As Maya looked into her friend's eyes, she felt something solidify within her, a partnership fueled by conviction, ready to confront the shadows together, yet still, the impending confrontation loomed larger than ever. Would their newfound alliance withstand the storm ahead, or would the forces of darkness prove too overwhelming? A new question arose: could they protect what they valued most while seeking truth in a world filled with deception? Maya left the cafe with a sense of determination tempered by uncertainty. The statement from Holly resonated: they had to devise a plan that would not only present their findings but safeguard their careers while doing so. As she stepped into the bustling street, the noise faded as she shifted inward, focusing on the implications of their new venture. Walking with purpose, she considered their timeline. They needed to act quickly but strategically. Each passing car and sidewalk conversation reminded her that every delay could spell disaster. Sitting at her desk the next morning, a fresh week of work lay ahead, but it felt different, charged with potential and peril. Maya created a detailed timeline for their investigation and drew a chart outlining their findings. With each completed line, she felt her confidence grow. They were entering unknown territory, but she wouldn't let fear dictate her actions any longer. Later that day, while drafting an email to Holly, she hesitated. Alongside the report data, she started outlining the risks involved. Trust was fragile in this environment, and involving others could create unintended ripples. Yet, how could they proceed without feedback and support? She sent the email, holding her breath as she clicked send, the digital slip of paper carrying her thoughts into the void. Almost instantly, her heart raced again when her phone buzzed with a reply from Holly: "Let us meet again. We have to discuss how to proceed." That evening, Maya arrived at a small conference room, her nerves churning. Holly was already there, pacing slightly as she went over documents. The energy was palpable, anticipation laced with anxiety. "What do you think our first move should be?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the tumult within. "We need allies in our corner, people who can vouch for the integrity of what we're uncovering," Holly suggested, her eyes mirroring Maya's concern. "But we must proceed with caution. If anyone discovers our intentions prematurely, it could be catastrophic." Maya nodded, her mind racing through the list of potential colleagues. Who could be trusted? Who had the credibility they needed but could still stay under the radar? Moments later, an idea hit her. What about Jenna from compliance? She's independent and has been vocal about transparency in the company. Holly paused, contemplating the suggestion. That could work, but we must tread carefully. If she feels cornered or threatened, it could backfire. The thought lingered, digging into Maya's mind. Was it worth risking Jenna's comfort for the greater good? Yet, slowly, she embraced the idea that these discomforts were inherent in their mission. To protect the integrity of the company, they needed to rattle a few cages. They organized their strategy around bringing Jenna on board, outlining talking points that would build trust without alarming her. Holly took lead on this, as her rapport with Jenna would be crucial. This decision felt pivotal, echoing her evolving role as a leader. Maya's thoughts drifted back to the anonymous message. It had transformed her, igniting not just a desire for change but a determination to challenge the norm, something she once feared. She wasn't just taking action, she was redefining her legacy. As they departed the conference room, Holly's phone rang. The expression on her friend's face shifted from anticipation to alarm as she glanced at the screen. "It's about the discrepancies," Holly murmured, her voice hushed but filled with urgency. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Who was on the other end? What did they know? All of her careful planning and calculated moves suddenly felt vulnerable, like a tightrope walk across a yawning abyss with no safety net. As Holly's conversation unfolded with furrowed brows, Maya realized that with each step forward they were drawing closer to a confrontation that could dismantle everything they'd built. The moment felt charged, a storm gathering strength in the air. Maya sensed that they were on the cusp of either a breakthrough or a betrayal. The question now hovered ominously in the air: what truths were about to surface, and would they be prepared for the fallout? Days passed, each moment becoming denser with uncertainty and anticipation. Maya sat at her desk, drowning in notes and data, her mind buzzing with the implications of their investigation. The office felt increasingly suffocating, as if the walls conspired against her watching. With every tick of the clock, she felt the weight of impending decisions. When Holly had reported the call about discrepancies, terror rippled through Maya. It signaled that their enemies were regrouping, and the stakes were rising. The invisible tension in the air transformed into imminent confrontation. They were officially engaging in a battle that mattered deeply, not just professionally, but personally. In that moment, she stared at the once familiar documents, now teeming with threatening undertones. What had sparked her original ambition had now morphed into a struggle dwarfed by moral complexities. Had she underestimated the ramifications of finding the truth? Was truth alone enough to safeguard the people she cared about? But it was too late for second-guessing. She had taken the plunge and there was no going back. After multiple brainstorming sessions with Holly, the plan began crystallizing. Their strategy revolved around the idea of transparency and building rapport. They would reach out to Jenna, framing their intentions as a shared vision of protecting their workplace. The very essence of it filled Maya with determination. Arranging a time to meet Jenna became paramount. As they walked into the cafe, a rush of adrenaline coursed through Maya, a reminder of the commitment she was making to stand up for integrity. When they spotted Jenna, her warm demeanor offered an initial sense of comfort. "Thanks for meeting us, Jenna. We have something important to discuss," Maya began, her voice steady despite the unease that festered in her stomach. As they sat, she laid out the groundwork of their findings, articulating their concern over the recent discrepancies. Maya made it personal, expressing how the state of affairs weighed heavily on her conscience. She painted a vision of a company grounded in transparent values, a narrative that resonated with Jenna's ethics. Holly chimed in, echoing Maya's sentiments and detailing the patterns they had identified, hinting at their bigger ambitions for the organization's stronger reputations and shared accountability. Thankfully, their words cultivated a shared understanding. Jenna's brow furrowed, contemplating. The respect she had for Maya lent credibility to their plight. "I want to help," Jenna finally declared, meeting their hopeful gazes. "But we need to move with caution. The risk isn't just to us, it impacts everyone. I appreciate your bravery." Maya felt a wave of relief and exhilaration wash over her. They had made strides, not merely finding allies but embodying a collaborative spirit. This was her moment, a recognition of courage morphing into collective empowerment. Empowered by Jenna's support, they quickly began formulating a strategy for action. The sound of uncertainty began to diminish, replaced with a fierce resolve. Every decision now felt deliberate and strategic, each step illuminating a clearer path to confronting their challenges. But lurking in the shadows still remained that ominous foreboding, a reminder of the potential dangers lurking around the corner. The anonymous warnings echoed loudly in her mind, and the thought of repercussions cast a long shadow over her emerging confidence. They continued plotting, evaluating every detail, and preparing their narrative for presenting evidence to the company's board. Maya recognized a subtle shift happening within her. She was no longer just reacting to threats, she was actively molding her future. Yet, the reality shifted uncomfortably, the feeling of being hunted intensified. When another cryptic message landed in her inbox, it sent her heart racing. "Your quest for truth may shatter more than you think." The unnerving weight of those words matched the fear building in her gut. "Samuel, we can't shake the feeling that this is far from over," she shared. With unwavering resolve. "The more we move forward, the closer we inch toward confrontation. But I refuse to be intimidated. We need to capitalize on what we've built." With every moment of adversity, she felt herself toughening. With Holly, Jenna, and Samuel by her side, they amassed a coalition driven not just by ambition but by integrity. Each decision marked her evolution from passive observer to courageous advocate. Days turned into a week, adventuring deeper into the investigation, steadily acquiring more evidence. As they prepared to present their findings, the looming confrontation felt tangible. This would define their resolve. As a watchful cloud of doubt lingered in the back of her mind, Maya yet again found strength. She acknowledged her transformation. The girl who once hid behind fear now stood at the precipice of real change, a force to reckon with. when the day finally arrived for the board meeting, Maya stood before her peers, armed with data, passion, and unwavering determination. Their rhythmic discussions unfolded a tapestry of truth, unraveling deceptions that had threatened to undermine everything she held dear. As she took the floor, true confidence surged through her veins. She presented each point with clarity, equipping herself with every lesson learned in the high-stakes journey. Forging her identity one step at a time, she cherished every collective moment, breathing life into the urgent narrative of accountability. They were more than just colleagues, they were courageous advocates culminating into defenders of their shared vision. As the board responded favorably, acknowledging the gravity of their findings, Maya felt a deep and resonant sense of fulfillment. This was her achievement. She had unlocked doors not just for herself but for others too. As applause punctuated the air, within her, she understood the vast scaffolding of transformation had pieced together perfectly. She had aligned her ambition with her morals, and in that moment, she felt a profound recognition of self-worth. Maya's journey transcended more than just patterns of corporate behavior, it reshaped her identity. A sense of duty rooted her newfound confidence, manifesting a truth that resonated beyond the boardroom: courage, resilience, and integrity could reshape destinies. With every decision and choice from that moment on, she vowed to continue driving change, her core values guiding each step. Maya understood now, as clarity poured in, that the quest for truth was a journey worth the risks, and she was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories truly understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.